Hello, Mr. Miller. Right on time. I don't know why you want to talk to me, but I've been told I have to accommodate you. I do hope you have something interesting to ask. This is Miss Allison Whitworth. I'll be translating for you if you have any questions for her. Should we just get on with it? You want to ask me about Carla's answer machine. I have no idea what you're... That means nothing to me. Oh, what do you need to know? Sounds ominous. Has Carla done something wrong? From the night it happened? Right, that is something. Listen, between you and me, Allie's one of the good guys. Try not to involve her in something bad. Fine. I'll ask, but don't push it. What do you want me to say? Nice and simple. She says no. Just that. She's telling the truth. Obviously, she didn't hear it either. Yeah, no, she says it was definitely broken, so there was nothing to hear. No, she would have said. Are you trying to find out what the answer machine said or something? Oh. And is she? A little backhanded, if I'm honest. I'm not sure I approve of your technique. Shall we move on? What's Bowman's role in all of this? Or what's Bowman like as a person? That's what you really want to ask, right? Well, I'm not going to get into details, but he's basically the commander-in-chief. If it wasn't for him, none of this would be happening. All of the software, all of the Union Ag promotion, it all starts here. Charles Bowman created all of it. Well, yeah, sure, but I don't want to talk about that. After. Well, he died in the explosion. I'm sure you know all of this. But Bowman was the one who really held it all together. His company's grown exponentially since he took over, and we're all grateful. Well, enough not to want to tarnish his memory, Mr. Miller. Next question. I do. I'm basically second in command now, so I have a lot of responsibilities. The company has a more singular set of goals now, and I'm happy to be a part of that. About the company? Sure. I wouldn't be very good at my job if I didn't, would I? Excuse me, Mr. Miller. What the hell are you talking about? That's an extraordinarily offensive thing to ask. Not to mention out of left field. Nobody here is a racist. Where the hell did you get off asking something like that? Well, that's the first I've heard of it. But if that's what he said, then he spared us from having to hear it. Until now, anyway. I feel you can guess my stance on the matter. Out of interest, who's made that accusation? Couldn't or won't? You know what? I actually do want to find out the answer to that. I'm not comfortable continuing this line of questioning, Mr. Miller. Well, I'm sure he's got a very good reason for keeping it to himself. The company's policies are complex. I wouldn't expect you to get it. You're writing this for your book or report or whatever, right? Well, I want this part of the meeting stricken from the record, please. I'm not sure if that's a question or... People are scared of things they don't understand. That's all. I think the key thing to take from this is that if you want to make the country better, then you can't be frightened to offend a few minorities. It's the best way I can put it. What doesn't offend them? The most common thing I hear is that people are going to be kicked out of the country. Now, I can't help that from happening, so I try to avoid letting it affect my work. But I hear it over and over, like no one wants to admit the border control problem. Let me put it like this. You leave your window open in your house one summer's day and a whole bunch of flies come in. You try to remove them, but the flies are coming in faster than you can get them out. Do you want to keep trying to catch the flies, Mr. Miller? Or do you perhaps want to think about shutting the window? Exactly. And if we let more in than we can manage, then our larger goals won't be as effective. I knew you'd understand. It's a piece of software. We call it Digital Shadow Casting. DSC for short. Silhouette is its working title. Sorry, I know not everybody talks nerd, but do you understand technology, or you want me to elaborate a little? Sure. It installs a background OS that copies any and all information used on a computer. After a certain amount of data is gathered, or after a certain time, the data is packaged and sent to the Silhouette server in the basement, where we collate and serialize the data however we'd like. We have an algorithm that can highlight pertinent tagged matches: commerce, economics, political values, home living, etc. We sort it all and then macroanalyze the nation's preferences. It's pretty amazing, really, and we're the first company to make use of the tech. What did you think we did here? I mean, really, it's all written in black and white. The Union Act, Mr. Miller. The country is about to vote it in. Well, yeah, a part of it, sure. You'd have to read the Union Act for yourself. I'm not a lawyer or a politician, Mr. Miller. It's not something I'm happy getting into. It's all legal. The Union Act is a contract. If people want it, they vote for it. Other than that, I just do my job and try to keep my head down. How so? That's because they're focused on immigration. They really shouldn't be. I mean, we gather information on people in the system. If they're not a part of the system, if they don't have a national insurance number, there's nothing to gather. It's just common sense. You can't crunch the data if you can't gather it. But the act is so much bigger than that. You read the news and everyone thinks we're... The immigrant problem is just a small byproduct of the act. Processing data is what it's really all about. And the silhouette is how we do that. Trust the news to completely miss the point. That's a very crude way of putting it. But that's the basic idea, sure. We're not getting away with anything. We're doing our jobs. Speaking for myself, I'm not here to school the mob outside on what I do for a living. I see them every day, screaming, shouting, hurling objects at my staff. They can't be reasoned with. They can't be made to understand because they've already made up their minds. And the newspapers haven't cottoned on either. It's not my fault. And it sure as hell is not my problem. I'm saying I'm not responsible. That's very different. Now, should we move on? About the explosion? Well, pretty much what everyone else knows about it. I don't really know what you want me to say. You must know everything that I do. I was having a smoke in the courtyard. Luckily, I wasn't close enough to the blast, but I saw the whole thing. Probably in her office. Room 105. Anything else, Mr. Miller? Well, nothing. We weren't allowed back into the premises for over a week. Even then, only a handful of us were here to make sure things carried on running. The police were still here, and a detective was snooping around. I couldn't do anything without someone watching over me, or telling me to log what I was doing. Whatever they found, they didn't share it with me. I read it in the paper like everyone else. Some kind of bomb, I guess, on the gas lines. At least that's what the news said. We have a report of the official findings downstairs somewhere. Don't you believe me? Yeah, basically the gas line. She says he wrote some kind of code that overheated the servers, she thinks. He was a talented coder, much as I hate to admit it. He found out that the servers were close to a gas line that came from an external propane store and, well, you know the rest. What? Where did you get that? I thought the police had taken all of the archive data for their investigation. So, the servers had been overheating for almost a year. How was this a thing without me knowing about it? Right. So, couldn't he have been making them overheat for nearly a year? Isn't that the same thing? He wrote some bad code and waited it out. I don't see how that's any different. Either way, Alex found a way to blow up the servers and get vengeance for his family. Ah. Okay. I see your point. So, then maybe he... I can't wrap my head around this. I know Alex did it, so this must be some kind of... I don't know. A moment ago, you were probably wondering if I did it, weren't you? Look, I can't talk for anyone else, but I don't know what to say. This changes a few things. Are you just trying to catch me out? Or do you actually care about this, Mr. Miller?
Excuse me, Mr. Crow. I need to have a word with you.
Can it wait, Dan? I'm in the middle of something here.
I'm aware of that. That's what I want to talk to you about.
Right. Why are you here? Right. It's come to my attention that you may have been collecting sensitive information in that briefcase of yours. I'm gonna need you to hand them over, please. I'm gonna pass them along to Charles Bowman, and when or if you have your meeting, he can decide what he wants to do with them.
Steve, please take Mr. Miller's belongings over to Mr. Bowman's office.
Sorry about this.
Oh, and we'll also need that dossier of yours. Right. Well, Mr. Miller, it seems as though this meeting is over. I'll look forward to hearing what Charles Bowman has to say about what you've been up to. Get him out of my sight.
Right, Mr. Miller. Let's go.